Hey everyone, and welcome back to the PTG Rail Route Learning series for Train Simulator. On today's video I'm going to be revisiting the Riviera Line and recording a journey between Paignton and Exeter St, which is a distance of around 28¼ miles. Along the way we will be calling at Torquay, Newton Abbott and Exeter St, and in this scenario it's one which actually comes with the new Armstrong Powerhouse Valenta enhancement pack, following the 1434 service, which would have been an intercity cross-country service between Paignton and York. I have previously made a video on this route in this direction, so this video is actually a remake of that, recorded in a higher quality and also at 60 frames per second, in addition to being a demonstration video of the new Valenta enhancement pack from Armstrong Powerhouse. And indeed the scenario that I've chosen here is a rainy scenario, so that I can demonstrate the wheel slide protection features which have been introduced with this enhancement pack. The train which I'm going to be driving on this journey is an HST or high-speed train, which was originally called the Intercity-125. The train is formed of two Class 43 locomotives with 7 Mark III coaches in between, in cross-country formation, so we've got one first-class coach, followed by a buffet coach, and then finally 5 standard-class coaches. The Class 43 locomotives are diesel locomotives which were built between 1975 and 1982 at British Rail Engineering Limited Crewe Works. A total of 197 Class 43 locomotives were produced, and although most of them, well in fact not most, although all of them have been re-engined these days, with the enhancement pack I'm using here, I'm driving with the engine sounds for the original engine for the HST, which is the Paxman Valenta. The total power output is 2,250 horsepower for each engine, and of course we've got one engine at each end of the train because we've got 2 locomotives, giving a combined total horsepower of 4,500. The maximum in-service speed of these trains is 125 miles per hour, although we won't be able to get up to that on this journey today, with the maximum speed on this route being 100 miles per hour, and the record speed for these units is 148 miles per hour. In the cab of the HST, there's a few changes to the startup procedure which have been implemented thanks to the Armstrong Powerhouse enhancement pack, which I'm just going to quickly go through now. So I'm just going to move over here first of all to the reversing handle, and now I'm going to press Shift and W to turn the master key. And now that I've done that, I need to move the reversing handle into the eng only position, which you can see there, and reset the AWS self-test sequence. Now that I've done that, I need to move over to the other side of the cab and start setting up the lights here. So we've now got independently controllable tail light and marker light and headlight switches, which previously weren't implemented on the HST. So I'm just turning the tail lights off now, so we've got no red lights on the front of the train. And now I'm turning on the marker lights, and now I'm also pressing the H key to turn on the headlights here. So normally you would drive with the right hand headlight on during the day and the left hand headlight on at night, but just due to the weather here I think I'm going to put both headlights on, so we're going to have both headlights functional for the duration of this journey. Now if we move along the cab a bit here, we've got the brake handle just here, which has 6 steps of brake away from the initial application. So if I now release the brakes there, I now move the handle up to position 1, then we've got to 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, which is full service braking, and finally there is a 7th position, which is the emergency setting. If we now look up here, you can see the brake gauges, and the gauge that I'm most interested in is the middle gauge, which is the brake cylinder pressure gauge, which indicates just how hard the brakes have been applied. I will also point out that the brakes on the HST seem to be quite slow at releasing, so you need to prepare to release the brakes above your target speed. Say if you were slowing from 70 to 40 miles per hour, then you'd probably want to release the brakes at around 43 to 44 miles per hour. Now what I'm going to do is press Ctrl and D, which just turns on the driver vigilance device, which is a foot pedal located within the locomotive in real life, which sounds an alarm every, I think it's 45 seconds to 1 minute if no control has been pressed, and then the driver has to reset that using the foot pedal. In Train Simulator this is simulated with the key of E, so when I hear the beeping sound of the driver safety device go off, then I will press the E key. Something else to point out over here is the horn control, which is a two-tone horn control with the spacebar and the B key. And now I think the final thing that I need to do to set up ready for departure due to these weather conditions is to turn on the windscreen wipers there. So the wipers will certainly help me to see a lot better on this journey. A couple of other controls I realise I forgot to mention here, of course, are the speedometer measured in miles per hour. You can actually see a red line on there indicating the 125 mile per hour maximum speed of these trains. And also just to the right of that is the ammeter, which measures the, I think it's the power output of the traction motors. And so as the ammeter climbs, then there is more power available. And what you're going to notice is that as we're going uphill, particularly away from Paignton and Torquay, that when the ammeter gets to much above 1000 there, then what we're going to start finding is a lot of wheel slip. And when wheel slip happens, then the power will cut out and reduce down, and then the power will slowly increase once again. And again, if it encounters more wheel slip, then the locomotive will once again reduce the power and keep on going on that cycle, which certainly adds a level of challenge to driving this train. So now that we've had a look around the cab and looked at the basic controls, let's just take another quick look outside the train and then depart and head out towards Exeter. Departing away from Paignton, the starting speed limit is 20 miles per hour, and at this point we've got just over 2 miles to go to our first stop, which is Torquay. As we accelerate up towards 20 miles per hour along here, I'm not going to go at any point above notch 3 of power, which is the setting that I'm now in, and then I'm going to reduce the power down to notches 1 to 2 as we get towards 20 miles per hour. The speed limit here is just about to go up to 40, and I've got to wait, of course, until the rear of the train has cleared this speed board before I can accelerate up towards 40 miles per hour. So I've now just cut the power down to notch 1 for a moment until I can increase the power further. And what I'm looking out for now is some houses on the right hand side, which are fairly close to the track, and as we get towards those houses, I can then start accelerating up towards 40. So you can just see the houses now just coming up there, and as we come up on the first house, I'm now going to start increasing the power to bring our speed up towards 40 miles per hour. We are currently on an uphill gradient of 1 in 81, which will indeed affect our ability to accelerate, and I've also got to try and keep an eye out on wheel slip activity just here. So if you watch the ammeter there and you see the ammeter fall, that means that I have encountered some wheel slip. Currently bringing our speed up in notch 4 of power, which seems to have so far avoided any wheel slip, but I am keeping an eye on that at present, though in a moment I am going to need to reduce the power. In fact, you just saw the ammeter fall there, so we have now encountered some wheel slip, and that was in notch 4 of power, so I'm now just going down to notch 3 and then notch 2. As the gradient is about to change, it's going to shallow and then level, and then we're going to go up again at 1 in 91, before then the gradient changes to a down gradient at 1 in 57, at which point I'm then going to need to use the braking to control our speed. Now just doing a little bit over 40 miles per hour there, I think we might have hit 41, so I've just idled the power now to allow the train to coast and lose a little bit of speed. I'm keeping an eye out for the gradient change coming up just ahead, where we start on our descent. I believe that we are now at the top of the descent here, so I have just applied the brakes up to step 1 just to bring our speed down slightly, and as we get down towards 35 miles per hour, I'm now going to release the brakes, and that should allow our speed to gradually climb back up towards 40. Now just applying the braking once again momentarily, although the gradient here is now changing, and so the gradient has now shallowed and levelled out. And now coming up at this next overbridge, we've got half a mile to go to our stop at Torquay. There's now 2 more overbridges between here and Torquay station, so we're now coming up on the second overbridge, and I want to brake about halfway between this and the following overbridge, which is just before Torquay station. So I'm now making a step 3 brake application, which is bringing our speed down. You can now see the platform coming up here at Torquay, so entering the platform at around 30 miles per hour is a pretty good speed to be coming in at. I need to aim to stop here at the end of the platform. I am now just reducing the braking and fanning the braking between steps 1 and 2. That seems about adequate for now, otherwise I might have ended up stopping a bit too early. I've now got the brakes back up to step 2, and as you can see the HST stop sign is just coming up on the left hand side. Now just increasing the brakes further to steps 3, back just up to step 4 and now back down to step 3, and that should be about it. So we should now be stopped in the right place. Departing away from Torquay, the starting speed limit is 40 miles per hour with around 6 miles to go to Newton Abbott, and immediately after departing away from Torquay station we'll then be on a climbing gradient of 1 in 56, so we're just at the very start of that gradient now, and this will significantly impede our ability to accelerate and also cause a significant amount of wheel slip activity, even in notches as low as notch 3 of power, and certainly as I increase towards notches 4 and 5, then you're guaranteed to see quite a lot of wheel slip activity, which prevents us from accelerating very quickly along here. I am currently in notch 3 of power, trying to accelerate up towards 40 miles per hour. We're going to be on this uphill gradient until we approach the next station, which is Torquay, and as we approach Torquay platform, the gradient will then level out, allowing us to gain a bit of speed up towards 40 miles per hour, with the speed limit immediately after the platform at Torquay increasing to 45 miles per hour. I have just increased us now to notch 4 of power to see what happens. As you can see there, wheel slip activity has been detected immediately and the power's been significantly reduced, so I'm now just going back to notch 3 to ensure that we don't encounter that level of wheel slip activity again, and hopefully we should be able to accelerate a bit more as we come up on Torquay station in a moment. You can now see the platform just ahead, which is at Torquay. Now immediately after the platform there at Tor, the speed limit has gone up to 45 miles per hour, so I can accelerate up towards that now just as we approach this next signal. And then the next speed change I'm looking out for is an increase in the speed limit to 60 miles per hour at the start of a down 1 in 110 gradient, which means that I will then need to idle the power as we get to around 56 to 57 miles per hour to allow the train to coast up towards 60, and then use the brakes if necessary for speed control. Along this section, however, we've got a bit more uphill to go just before reaching that downhill section on the falling gradient towards Newton Abbott. I am now just cutting the power back as we were getting up towards 45 there. I just wanted to ensure that we didn't break the speed limit. The downhill gradient will be starting very shortly, so I need to keep an eye out for that and idle the power if necessary before we can accelerate up towards 60, just to ensure that we don't break the current 45 mile per hour speed limit. Now I see I have now slowed down to 40, so I've just increased the power up to, I think it's notch 2 now, just to bring our speed back up slightly. Now I'm idling the power once again, as I believe we have now started on the downhill section, as here is the 60 mile per hour speed post. I know that I can accelerate up towards 60 once we reach a grey box on the right hand side, which is coming up in a moment, but you can just see that grey box coming up now. So at this point I'm now going to go up to notch 3 of power to bring us up towards around 55 to 56 miles per hour before idling the power once again. We're now doing around 56 to 57 miles per hour, so I've just shut off the power now to allow the train to coast. Along here we're going to be passing through a closed station shortly at King's Carswell, which was closed in 1964. I've just applied the brakes up to notch 1 just to control our speed, as I felt we were about to break the 60 mile per hour speed limit, so I'm just bringing our speed down now to around 67, and now that I'm there I'm just releasing the brakes to allow the train to continue to coast. We're now passing the site of the closed station at King's Carswell. At the next signal that we come to now, we've then got just over half a mile to go to an upcoming 55 mile per hour speed restriction and 2 miles to go to Newton Abbott. So I have just applied the brakes there, as again the speed was just getting a bit too high. I've now released the brakes and I'm just going to allow the train to coast along here, and so we're going to accelerate a little bit above 55 miles per hour, but as we reach the next signal coming up, in fact that signal is just before the start of the upcoming 55 mile per hour speed zone. So I'm going to apply the brakes approaching this signal just to ensure that we are down below 55 in time. I've just made a notch 1 brake application and our speed is now down to 55 miles per hour. As we pass the 55 board there, with then half a mile to go to an upcoming 40 mile per hour speed restriction, I'm going to apply the brakes for that at this next overbridge just coming up. We're also now passing the site of Aller Junction, where we joined the South Devon main line from Plymouth and Penzance. I am now braking for the upcoming 40 mile per hour speed restriction, and now that we're doing around 45, I've just released the brakes. I think it actually might have been 43 to 44 there where I actually released them, but we are now down to 40 miles per hour with the brakes fully released, and so you can now see that we're entering the 40 mile per hour speed zone. We are now about to cross a junction onto the up main line here. And then shortly after crossing this junction, the speed limit will be going up to 60 miles per hour, which is the speed limit on the main track. However, we won't be able to accelerate towards that as we are now coming up on Newton Abbott station. I'm going to have to brake very shortly to slow down in time for our stop. You can now see the platform just coming up at Newton Abbott ahead, so I've initially made a step 2 brake application, and that's just to try and bring our speed down to around 30 for entering the platform here. And here at Newton Abbott I need to aim to stop at, I believe it's the 8 and 10 car stop sign. You can now see the 8 and 10 car stop sign just coming up on the left hand side. So I'm now just braking lightly to slow us down for that. Now if we just pull up alongside that and stop around here, then we should be stopped in roughly the correct place. Departing away from Newton Abbott, the starting speed limit is 60 miles per hour, and we've got just over 20 miles to go to our next and final stop on this journey, which is Exeter St David's. The branch now diverging to the left is the Heathfield branch, and then coming up shortly on the right hand side we will be passing the site of Hackney Sidings. The gradient here is now considerably more level than the departures from both Torquay and Paignton, so we should be able to accelerate a bit quicker and with less wheel slip activity than before. Currently I'm accelerating in notch 3 of power. In the moment I'm just going to go up to notch 4 just to monitor the wheel slip activity. I can allow a small amount of wheel slip, but I don't want it to get too severe, because I believe in real life you try and avoid it to avoid damage to the wheel set and also to the track itself. As we now approach 60 miles per hour, I'm just going to temporarily idle the power at this point, just to ensure that we don't break the speed limit. The speed limit here is now about to go up to 90 miles per hour, and so now the power's in idle, and once we pass the 90 board, I can now just go straight up to full power, because at this speed the engine won't kick in quick enough to start accelerating the train before the rear of the train has cleared the speed board. So at that point it just went straight up to full power, and it seems the wheel slip activity isn't too bad in full power at this point. And we've just passed the first signal after the 90 mph speed post, so at the next signal, or the second signal after the 90 mph speed posts, we've then got around 1 mile to go to an upcoming 80 mph speed limit, and 1.5 miles to go to an upcoming 60 mph speed limit. Now that we've reached just over 80 miles per hour, I'm going to idle for power at this point and allow the train to coast, due to the fact that the upcoming 80 mph speed restriction is around 1 mile away from this point. As we pass the 80 mph speed post, we're then going to have a Morpeth board warning for the upcoming 60 mph speed restriction, and so I'm going to apply the brakes for the upcoming 60 just past the Morpeth board post. So we've now got the Morpeth board warning for the upcoming 60, just as the speed limit there had dropped to 80 miles per hour. So I've now made a step 3 brake application, which should bring our speed down quite nicely. In fact, I'm just going to increase that slightly more to step 4, just to ensure that we are bringing our speed off. And now I'm reducing the braking as we get closer to the 60 mph speed zone. So I've now got the brakes on full release, and we're now entering the 60 zone. I'm just going to give us notch 2 of power for a moment to bring our speed back up towards 60, and then reduce the power as we get closer to 60 miles per hour. We're now coming up on Teignmouth Station. The speed limit here is now going up to 75 miles per hour, however we're only just over 3/4 of a mile from an upcoming 60 mph speed zone, so I don't recommend accelerating above 60 at this point. Now as we travel along here, we're travelling along the first part of the Dawlish seawall, which is there to protect the coast and has certainly collapsed in the past, in particularly severe storms. I think the most recent one was a couple of years ago, which resulted in the line being closed for a few months while the seawall underwent serious rebuilding and repair. So we've just passed the warning for the upcoming 60 mph speed post. Of course I haven't had to slow down because I haven't accelerated above 60 along here. I'm just leaving the power in notch 1 at the moment, which seems to be holding us at pretty much the correct speed. We're now about to start passing through a series of tunnels, starting with the 521 yard long Parsons Tunnel. Just idled the power for a moment as I felt that we might exceed 60 miles per hour there. I'm just going to allow the train to lose a couple of miles per hour and then go back up to notch 1 to maintain our speed. We're now coming up on the 58-yard long Clark's Tunnel, which is immediately followed by the 49-yard long Fillet Tunnel. Straight after that, we now enter the 227-yard long Coreyton Tunnel, followed by finally the 205-yard long Kennaway Tunnel. We're now passing Dawlish Station. The speed limit here is now going up to 75 miles per hour, and I can start accelerating towards that on this light right-hand curve that we're now entering just here. The speed limit will shortly, however, be dropping to 70 miles per hour, so what I'm going to do is, as we get to 70, I'm then going to idle the power to allow the train to coast. So I've now idled the power as we enter the 70 mile per hour speed zone, though very shortly the speed limit will be going up to 80 miles per hour, just as we pass the site of Dawlish Warren Station. The speed limit's now gone up to 80 miles per hour, so I'm going to start accelerating almost immediately after passing the board to accelerate up towards that, and we're now passing Dawlish Warren. At this signal just here, we've got around 3/4 of a mile to go to an upcoming 75 mile per hour speed limit, and so I'm just looking out for the warning for that limit now, which is around 1/3 of a mile from the limit itself. It looks like that might be the warning just coming up on the left hand side. No, it's actually a whistle board, so the warning's just slightly further up than that. I've just idled the power there, as in fact I allowed our speed to get up just slightly more than I intended. Now I've just got the brakes on for the upcoming 75 limit. Initially a step 2 brake application. We are now down to 75 in time. Now just going between notches 1 and 2 of power to try and maintain our speed as close to 75 as possible, and we're now coming up on Starcross Station. At Starcross Station we had 8.5 miles to go to Exeter St David's, and so what I'm looking out for along here now is the next speed limit increase, which will be an increase in the speed limit to 100 miles per hour, around 7 miles from Exeter Station. The speed limit is now going up to 100 miles per hour, and so I added full power the moment that we passed the 100 mile per hour speed board there, as the rear of the train has now cleared, and the speed limit will now remain at 100 miles per hour until we're within around 1 or 2 miles of Exeter St David's. So to accelerate up towards 100, I've gone straight up to full power. We have just had some wheel slip there, but certainly as we get above 80 miles per hour, then the wheel slip should significantly reduce to the point where we should be able to accelerate up to 100 with relative ease. As we now approach 100 miles per hour, I'm going to idle the power to allow the train to coast until we need to start slowing down for the next speed change, which is a reduction in the speed limit down to 75 miles per hour. We're now passing the warning for the upcoming 75 mile per hour speed restriction, which is around 3/4 of a mile from the speed limit itself. I'm now applying the brakes up to step 3, which should bring our speed down nicely. But I'm just going to go up to step 4 there, just to ensure that we do bring our speed down, as I found that these brakes aren't always quite as effective as I think they are. And now that we're doing around 75, I've just released the brakes completely, just slowed the train down slightly too much, so I'm just going to give us a couple of notches of power now to bring the speed back up towards 75. And now we're entering the 75 mile per hour speed zone, which is around 1 3/4 of a mile from our stop at Exeter St David's, and 1 1/4 mile from an upcoming 45 mile per hour speed restriction. I am now going to idle the power to allow the train to coast along here. I'm also looking out now for the upcoming 45 mile per hour speed warning, which is again around 3/4 of a mile from the speed limit itself. So we've just passed the 45 warning now. We're now passing through Exeter St Thomas station, and I'm going to apply the brakes now for the upcoming 45 speed limit, just as we passed that signal there, which was displaying a double yellow aspect. If that signal is displaying double yellow, then you can be sure that you are cleared all of the way into the platform at Exeter St David's station. I'll just increase the braking slightly there, and now I've reduced back down to step 3. I'm now reducing the braking further as we get closer to 45 miles per hour, and now I've reduced the braking and released it completely, as we are now doing 45 in time for the 45 speed zone. You can now see Exeter St David's station just coming up. I'm aiming to stop here, entering the platform at no faster than around 30 miles per hour, and again I believe at this station I also need to stop at the 8 and 10 car stop sign. So you can now just see the 8 and 10 car stop sign coming up on the left hand side. It looks like the man standing there might be the replacement driver for the next part of this journey as it continues onwards towards York. So here we are, arrival at Exeter St David's. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really do hope that you have enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, please don't forget that for the latest channel updates, you can find them on my Facebook page, and the link to my Facebook page is in the description of this video. And also, if you would like to sponsor me towards anything that I do on Patreon, then please visit my Patreon page for more information. Again, the link of which is in the description of this video. Once again, thank you for watching.